you, Alan. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks also, Jonathan, for the exciting introduction words. So I'm Jérôme. I'm the CEO at Wazo. And I'm here today to talk about how to grab the full potential of the communication programmable market, to share some ideas with you. But first, a few words about me. So I believe it was a gathering for programmers, developers, but it turns out that I'm also a former investment banker like Jonathan. But anyway, let's share some ideas. I've been a banker over 7 years for a German investment bank, and then I founded my own advisory firm. And I worked along 30 managers on the fundraising, on the sales, and on also many difficult points that you have along the way during a venture. After 15 years in it, I also made some profit, and I started to be a business angel and invested in some companies. And I came across Sylvain Boilly, who was starting his company called Wazo, and his plan was to build an open and hybrid programmable platform for communication. And with a friend of mine, a former client, who was from the IT orchestration background, we started to pour more money in it and more time in it, because we became aware of the potential that there was in this venture to offer programming capacity, not as a service, but as a product in a cloud-native way, full of APIs, and we'll get into the details. So at some point, when my friend finished his lockup period at Red Hat, and I also decided to join the company, and I am not the CEO at Wazo for more than a year and a half. So what are we going to talk about? For ages, there were two galaxies that were living separately. On the one side, you had the IT world. On the other side, you had the telecom world, and they had their own physics. They had their own hardware. They also had their own networks. So there were millions of light years apart. On this side, the IT galaxy absorbed the many industries one after the other, and inevitably, the two galaxies are now colliding. And this has the potential to entirely reshuffle the communication game. Why is that so? Because all of a sudden, telecom becomes programmable. And from there, you can build differentiated solutions. So competition will no longer be on pricing. You need to get different, you need to productize, and you need to build new customer experiences. That's how you make the difference now. So most organizations are now looking for collaboration tools, the way to enhance the relationship with their customers, improve interactivity, and so on. So they would like to leverage on any type of media, and they are looking now for some new use cases in unified communication, contact centers, and the way to include communication within app. That's a heavy potential, but as we can see, we're still in the infancy of the industry. And why do we not get to the full market potential? Well, the available solutions do not make everyone happy. On the one hand, you have the old legacy providers, and well, they tend not to promote interoperability outside their own perimeter for some reasons that you can well understand. And if you want to adapt those monolithic solutions, you need to hire an army, a battalion of integrators. It's a very long process. So you can get off-the-shelf solutions, but you have little programmability. On the other hand, if you want some programmability, then you have some CPaaS providers, such as the Twilio or the Nexmo, and they deliver the promise of programmability, but they do not have easy on-the-shelf solutions, and also it raises some questions of control over your communication over time. So in the end, you may decide to build your own communication stack, but it is really a long time consuming process. It is expensive, it is hazardous, and if everyone does reinvent the wheel on and on, it does not make any sense. But those approaches bring you the sought after programmability, but you need expertise, and you cannot go speed to the market and have at the same time the control over time. So to get deeper into the analytics, we built a commoditization matrix, which includes 4 criteria. First one being what we're looking at after is the programmability. Second is to keep the control over the long term and keep value, because if you get the programmability and don't keep the control, you work for your providers. The third criteria is the usability, how you get access to this programmability. You need to be able to consume it. And the fourth criteria is open source. We are an open source company. We'll give you further details on this, but we believe this is a very convenient, modern way to get to the community and spread the technology and the value proposition. So what you're looking for in terms of programmability, of course you're looking for interoperability with the existing solution. So you need to have a vast set of APIs. You need to offer SDK to go beyond what is existing on the market and have dedicated solution that will respond to your unique needs. And you need also to cover a wide scope of channel, including the voice, video, messages, text, fax, to some extent. In terms of control, there are some business have some concern about privacy. They have some issues with sovereignty if we're looking at public organizations, state-owned organization. Some use cases are also mission critical, and you cannot rely on SaaS model and have provision of the service from the SaaS. Also, when you grow your business, and if the underlying cost goes at the same speed than your success, then your provider grabs the value for yourself. So there are alternatives and ways to keep in control, and that would be to benefit from a hybrid infrastructure, so to keep a value at some point on your own infrastructure. The third criteria is the way how you can consume easily the programmability features. There are many ways to get there. In the end, you would dream of having one-click deployment and up to no code. At some point, we will see initiatives that will allow non-programmers to design new solutions. And the way we are tackling this issue at Wazo is to use our underlying programmability to offer adaptability to existing solutions. That would mean that a partner can go quick to the market with an off-the-shelf solution and adapt it over time to build value to their customer. And then the fourth criteria is related to open source. We believe that the community plays a very important role to increase the robustness of the product, because you have a feedback loop from the community that can also contribute, bring patches. Also, the way the community is using your technology tells you where in what direction you should go, so that speeds up your product market fit. And finally, if you bring something useful to the community, then you will benefit from the traction. Everyone knows that the developers are a very strong, powerful way to infuse technology in the market. So if now we apply this matrix, those 4 criteria to the legacy providers, we see that they offer little programmability. They offer control. You can have it on your own premise. Well, you can use it, but you cannot adapt it over time, and it's not open source. Now, if we look at the CPaaS providers, they deliver the programmability features. As long as you remain with their own technology roadmap, you find what you are looking for. And also, they are very strong in making it available to you. Great documentation, they make it accessible quite easily. Now, in terms of control, well, you are building your solution on something that you do not control. So what happens if at some point you would like to get independent or change from your provider, you're not in control. That's an issue. And also it's not open source. Now, of course, if you decide to go with Wazo, well, you get the programmability. You are, of course, in control, which is the heart of our value proposition. We are open source, and we are working at the moment on making our technology much easily available. So, well, that's a quick comparison. Now, how do we make it? So, a few words about Wazo. Wazo was created in December 2016. I mentioned Sylvain Boily, who has an open source telecom background, and I also quickly mentioned Nicolas Marchal, who has IT orchestration background, open source. It was in the OpenStack world. And you can see Wazo as the combination of those two expertise, and that's. Remember when I mentioned the two galaxies that were colliding, IT and Telecom? Well, at Wazo, we are exactly the expression of those two components. We are a Canada-based company, but we are evenly split between Canada and France. So, what we do is open source communication software for business. And there are two legs to that. There is the open source project, and there is the business, the business products. So on the community side, we have a project which is called Wazo Platform, and the mission is to leverage the best open source component that exists on the market and transform the way you build IT. The new telecom infrastructures, and also create new communication services. What we provide with Wazo Platform, you can download it on our community website. What we provide is a platform so that you build your own telecom infrastructure, and we abstract the telecom complexity. And we make you consume services through the most recent web and cloud technologies. Besides, we add a unified approach to the way you build your telecom stack, and we have a unified approach for authentication, management, deployment, security, and so on. So it's 100% open source. You can use it, you can read the code, you can contribute, you're very welcome. There is a very active blog, there is a community, blogs and way to forums, way to communicate. The way it's built, it's a microservice architecture made of many components that you can control and orchestrate through APIs. So everything is API driven. It's of course cloud native, it is multi-tenant, As I said, there is a unified authentication. It's service-oriented web. And on top of that, you can build interfaces to orchestrate it. So those are our choice that we made in terms of technology. So we will talk during the day about the Camelio, the Asterisk. We use Ansible for the easy deployment. What you find there on top of the platform that you can download and install on Debian is a full library of more than 450 APIs that are well documented, and from there you can build services such those related to the users or to the provisioning of the phones, or build analytics about the CDRs and so on, and use any type of media. The great advantage is that you can use this and install it anywhere. You can install it in bare metal in your own infrastructure, or you can install it in the cloud. That's the way we bring the CPaaS programmability features in a hybrid way. So that's for the community project. I strongly invite you to come and visit our website, and if you like it, become member, interact with us. It's getting extremely powerful. We are adding new features very fast at the moment. We're dealing with high availability at the moment, and well, it's full of promise. And from there, you can build unified communication solution, call center, CPaaS, in-app communication, and anything you would like that is related to communication. The other leg of our business is related to business, because we need to pay the loan as well at some point. So the way we monetize our work is that anything we do is built on top of the Wazo the Wazo platform that I just described. But you can use the Wazo platform through APIs. Our business is built so that you can use the platform through web interface, and you do not have to get into the code. So we've built web interface so this is our what we call the UC portal, where you can easily integrate network, decide to put your engines into any kind of infrastructure. You can provision new client accounts, associate, link that to new services for the end users, and so on. And you can do that really easily with no prior technological knowledge. We've also built on top of that some end user application, such as a web and desktop apps or a mobile app. And if you take all the components, you have a full UC communication solution that you can install on your own infrastructure. So, if we come back to the problem that was raised at the beginning of the presentation, the answer we provide is to say you can get off-the-shelf solutions, but as those are built on top of a programmable platform, these solutions can themselves be adapted, and they are interoperable. You can program them. You can build. You can build any service, any vertical, add recording if you're dealing with lawyers or with regulation issues, and also you can use those services on the infrastructure of your choice. Basically, we combine off-the-shelf solutions and an adaptability over time, thanks to our native programmability. Now, if you look at acquisitions that were made in this area, seeing Cisco acquiring Tropo, and there are various examples of that, it's not sure that it's going to work because those are not the same underlying technology stacks. So you cannot make them work well together, and they are doomed to have a separated business over time. So this is something that is absolutely unique on the market. Okay, so how do we go to the market? The target is to serve end users, but in an indirect way. So we go through service provider or through software vendors, and they use our underlying stack, and they can decide to start either from our APIs or go faster to the market and choose for existing solutions. And we will build after that solutions for call center and so on. The value is that it is adaptable to your own needs. It is multi-tenancy for the service providers so that they can retain value and control more than using any other solution on the market. So what do we do with that? So here are a few examples of what people do with Wazo technology. We work with a nationwide firefighter service in Europe, and they are building their next generation of communication services based on the Wazo platform. This is an example. They use speech to text and then AI combined with geolocation to prioritize the way they need to deal with the calls, the numerous calls that they receive every day. We are an alternative to CPaaS providers for some software vendors that develop new communication services. They can start with Twilio or Nexmo, and because it's good to go quick to the market, but when they become successful at some point they would like to have this control back internally. So we have some use cases into this field. And another one is that we allow service providers, unified communication service providers, to become themselves UCaaS providers instantly. So, and we have in the room, it's fortunate enough, we have Laurent Vella, who is one of our 15 partners. So he is one who is using Wazo. Please stand up. We have 15 partners like Laurent, who built a Centrex. So he decided to have a centralized infrastructure, and is serving, I believe you have now 20 or 25, we need to go 2 pages to see the list of clients that you serve with your solution. So I would recommend you to go and see Laurent or myself, or even Thibaut, who has arrived, is our business developer at Wazo. To let you know more about what we can do together from the community perspective or for business. If you are interested in knowing more, you're welcome. We are also in a funding phase, so we are raising funds. So if you have a deep pocket, or not so deep pocket, but open pocket, feel free to come and see me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jérôme.